The past year has been brutal for certain firearms and their resale values. Guns that were riding high a short while ago have seen their demand dry up and prices plummet. We're going to count down 10 models that crashed in value recently, explaining why each one fell from favor. If you own any of these, you might want to brace yourself. And if you're thinking of buying, consider this a warning. Number 10, Glock 43, early micro 9mm Glock. Glock themselves essentially leapfrogged the 43 by releasing the 43X and 48, which offered a much higher capacity with only a slight size increase. Suddenly, the original 43 6-round mag felt insufficient. Then came the optics revolution, red dot sights on carry guns, and the Glock 43 was left in the dust with no easy way to mount an optic. No factory MOS version for the standard 43. Within a couple of years, what was once the hot carry gun became old tech. Owners started turning in their G43s en masse for the 43X MOS or other micro 9s that could hold 10 plus rounds and mount a red dot. The used market was inundated with perfectly good Glock 43 pistols that lots of gun owners just didn't want anymore. The overall handgun market dipped about 7%. Older models like this took an outsized hit. Number 9, Smith & Wesson M&P Shield. The S&W M&P Shield was one of the most popular concealed carry pistols of the 2010s. Slim, reliable, and backed by a big name, and it sold in huge numbers. For years, Shields held value pretty well. They were in demand as a top CCW choice. But now in 2025, the original single-stack Shield has become another victim of innovation and market saturation. The first strike was capacity. When SIG introduced the P250 in 2018 with a 10-plus round micro-compact mag, it changed the game. Suddenly, a 7+1 or 8+1 Shield seemed inadequate. A pistol that used to dominate the CCW conversation can now be found at budget bin prices, sometimes $250 or less used, which is incredibly low for a quality name brand gun. Number 8, Sig Sauer P250. The SIG P250 might be one of the best examples of a gun that was ahead of its time, only to end up obsolete. Introduced as a modular hammer-fired pistol with swappable frames, slides, etc., the P250 promised versatility, but it had some issues. A long DAO trigger that few people loved, and it came out right when striker-fired guns were taking over. SIG learned from the lukewarm reception and later launched the striker-fired P320, which nailed the modular concept and became a huge hit, not to mention being adopted by the U.S. military. In the shadow of the P320, the poor P250 was quietly swept off the stage. Its resale value has since collapsed. Most buyers who wanted a SIG modular pistol went for the 320, and P250 owners looking to sell found almost no market. Number 7, Marlin 1895. Lever-action rifles saw a resurgence in the past few years, especially big-bore ones like the Marlin 1895 and 4570 Government. At the height of the lever gun revival, fueled by cowboy nostalgia and some tactical lever builds on social media, Marlin 1895s were flying off shelves. When Ruger acquired the Marlin brand and started reintroducing models, enthusiasts were ecstatic. So how did we end up with 1895s on the now worthless list? A combination of quality control hiccups, uncertainty, and hype crash. Early on, some of the Marlin 1895s under new production had issues. Minor stuff, but enough to spook buyers who expected perfection. At the same time, Ruger hadn't brought back every variant, which made people wonder if the one they bought might be replaced soon by an updated version. This uncertainty put a damper on demand. Number 6, Ruger AR-556. This rifle was meant to be the everyman's AR-15. Affordable, dependable, from a reputable brand. And it sold extremely well, especially during periods of panic buying when people were worried about potential gun bans. But a few things happened that sent its value downhill. Politics is one. A more pro-gun political climate reduced the panic factor, so AR sales slowed and prices dipped across the board. Also, every manufacturer and their cousin makes a budget AR now. The AR-556, while good, is pretty basic and faces tons of competition with better features or lower prices. According to retail reports, rifles were the most challenged category in Q1 2025, down 12.3% in sales, and ARs are a huge part of it. Plus, state legislation in some areas banned or restricted AR-15s, cutting off entire markets, meaning people in those states dumped theirs or stopped buying, hurting demand nationally. Number 5, Remington RP9. Early reviews and user reports found problems like failure to feed malfunctions, rounds nosediving and getting jammed under the feed ramp, and a generally poor trigger feel. Simply put, it earned a bad reputation almost immediately. Remington, already a company in turmoil at the time, couldn't afford a flop, but flop it did. They even had to issue a recall on early units to fix problems. As Remington went bankrupt in 2018 and exited the handgun market entirely in 2020, the RP9 was orphaned. That means no factory support, and it also means the market was flooded with unsold inventory that was later cleared out by distributors at fire sale prices. The values today reflect that. A used Remington RP9 in excellent shape might fetch only $150 to $200 if you can find a buyer at all. In fact, some gun stores won't even bother to stock or trade for them because they just sit in the display. Number 4, police trade-in 40 S&W pistols, e.g. Glock 22. This entry isn't one specific model, but a whole category of handguns that have tanked in value. Used law enforcement pistols in 40 S&W caliber, especially Glocks and Smith & Wessons from the 2000s. For years, 40 cal S&W was the duty round of choice for many police departments, which meant models like the Glock 22, Glock 23, Smith & Wesson M&P 40, SIG P250 40, etc. were produced and sold in huge numbers. Come the late 2010s and beyond, most agencies made the switch back to 9mm for a host of reasons. Better bullet technology, easier shooting, higher capacity. Suddenly, thousands upon thousands of 40 caliber service pistols hit the surplus market as police trade-ins. The supply of used 40 pistols exploded, and prices nosedive accordingly. You can now find Glock 22 Gen 4 police trade-ins for under $300, sometimes around $250 in good condition, which is crazy for a Glock. Remember, these guns often retailed for $500 to $600 brand new. Number 3, AR-15 pistols with braces. For much of the 2010s, buying an AR-15 pistol and slapping a brace on it was a popular way to have a short, handy firearm without needing the NFA paperwork for a short-barreled rifle, SBR. Millions were sold, and the market for braces and AR pistols boomed. That all came crashing down with a major regulatory shift. In January 2023, the ATF issued a new rule reclassifying many braced firearms as illegal unregistered SBRs. This was effectively a ban on the configuration as it existed. There was an amnesty period to register those guns or remove the braces, after which possessing one could make you a felon facing massive fines and prison time. Instantly, the demand for braced pistols evaporated. Who wants to buy something that could land you in legal trouble? The resale value of AR pistols, with or even without the brace, since the appeal was largely tied to having a brace, absolutely cratered. People trying to sell them found almost no buyers, and many gun shops stopped accepting them altogether in trades because of the uncertainty. If you had bought, say, a Springfield Saint AR pistol or a braced AK pistol for $1,000, its market value post-rule was pennies on the dollar, if you could find anyone willing. Number 2, Century Arms RAS-47. Tons of people bought them when imported AKs were getting expensive, figuring they were getting a deal on a decent AK. Unfortunately, the RAS-47 turned out to be a disaster in terms of durability and safety. Independent tests and countless user reports found that Century had used inferior materials and manufacturing. Specifically, critical parts like the trunnion and bolt were cast metal instead of forged, and they weren't hardened properly. The result? These parts would wear out or even crack and break far earlier than they should, sometimes in under a few thousand rounds. In worst case scenarios, that could lead to catastrophic failure. Imagine the bolt or trunnion breaking apart under pressure. Not good. The AK community loudly condemned the RAS-47, with some prominent testers calling it dangerous and advising nobody to shoot one extensively. The reputation of this rifle went completely sour. Century Arms eventually discontinued the model. Gee, wonder why. But by then, thousands were out there in the wild. Now try to sell one even at a steep discount, and knowledgeable buyers will run the other way. An RAS-47 that might have sold for $700 new is now essentially worth scrap metal price if you're informed. We've seen used ones listed for $400 or less with no takers because who wants a ticking time bomb? At gun shops, you'll be lucky if they even offer you a trade-in. Many flat out won't. It's that discredited. Number 1, Taurus Judge 410 45LC revolver. Topping our list is the infamous Taurus Judge, a revolver that promised to do it all and ended up doing a whole lot of nothing useful. The Judge was marketed as a handgun that could fire 45 Colt and 410 shotgun shells, making it the ultimate snake gun, defense gun, judge and jury in your hands. A lot of people bought into that hype. Judges were hot sellers for a while and even spawned imitators. But reality finally caught up, and the Judge's resale value has tanked dramatically. Why? Because owners and buyers realized that the concept sounds cool, but underdelivers in practice. Those 410 shells out of a short barrel are gimmicky at best. They lack power and spread unpredictably, making them mediocre for defense. The 45 Colt out of the Judge is okay, but the revolver's rifling is optimized for the shot shell compromise, so accuracy can suffer. In trying to do two things, the Judge does neither exceptionally well. As the novelty wore off, a lot of Judge owners decided to bail. Compounding this, the overall revolver market collapsed over 20% in early 25, the biggest drop in any firearm category. When wheel guns fell out of favor, a fringe item like the Judge had nowhere to hide. Used Judges started flooding the market from people who finally admitted to themselves that they didn't need a goofy shotgun revolver. These aren't rare Colt Pythons we're talking about. Taurus made a ton of Judges, so supply is high. Meanwhile, demand has evaporated. The people who wanted one already satisfied their curiosity, and few new buyers are biting now, especially with some states restricting the Judge's ability to fire shotgun shells, taking away its one trick. As a result, prices went into free fall. A Judge that once might have sold north of $500 new can be found used for a song nowadays.